We need to talk. Welcome back. For those of you who are new, this is RLoJ. RLoJ stands for a Ridiculous Lapse of Judgement. And the explanation for what that is discussed in the first 2 episodes. So check those out. We're gonna get smack into the video. So this one is relatively impromptu because on my team, I happen to have a team member who is now calling themselves they, them. This is what they're identifying with. This is their gender identity. It is not a she. She is a biological female. But she is now they. And I always feel like I'm butchering the English language whenever I mention this, but I do it out of respect now. They, them, thou dost be, they are. Killed it. Currently, we're undergoing diversity and inclusion training for the organization, which is fairly ironic because our organization is, I think, 85% women and over 70% non-white. And then we have Black women as the facilitators. Doesn't make much sense. I told my sister about this and she's like, it doesn't sound like they thought that one through. And it's funny because she is a facilitator for discussions like this in her organization, and she is the token Black woman, whereas everyone else is white for the most part. And so this was an interesting series of talks that I just went through. Preaching to the choir. What really stood out to me was the direct line or correlation between race and gender identity. But one thing that came up was when my teammate mentioned that they were always having to explain themselves. Like they could never just go somewhere and not explain themselves. And before, with my perspective, I always viewed this as an issue that they decided to take on themselves. They decided to take on that responsibility, so they suffer the repercussions. With my own values, with the way I was brought up, I believe this to be a self-inflicted wound, a self-inflicted, like basically a poison that she just drank herself, where she made the decision, they made the decision, I'm learning this, I'm new to this. Someone out there is just reeing, someone's just raging at me right now. Have some hibiscus tea. It's nice. Where she made the conscious choice to take on this responsibility and take on this burden. Whereas I realized my view on that was slightly jaded because as a Black male, see, I don't even like saying that, but as a Black male, I always have to explain myself. I'm born with that responsibility. No matter where I go, I have to explain myself. But the difference is, at least in America, there are multiple ways of explaining who we are. But the way I explain myself is not by saying I am a Black male. That's why I just said I hate saying that because I don't use that. We can explain it with words or we can just express it through other means. And for me, I express it through my demeanor, by the way I speak, my diction, all of that. All I have to do is talk. That's all I have to do. And that tends to eradicate most misconceptions that people may have about me when they first see me. Like, for example, I'm wearing this pretty neat hoodie, you know? It's a jean jacket, actually. It's a jean jacket. And if someone saw me wearing this plus a beanie, they probably think I'm gonna mug someone, you know what I'm saying? And if I start talking like this, dog, you know, we gonna go over there, man, you don't even know what we about to do, dog. So I can switch it up. It's called code switching.
Use your white voice.
Hey, Mr. Kramer, this is Langston from Regal View.
Most people don't learn this. And what was mentioned during diversity training was that most people don't have to explain themselves, ever. That was interesting to find out. Like, I've never wrapped my head around that, where I completely forgot. Some people don't have to explain themselves. They can just go through the world. People know what they are. They're an open book for the most part. I thought it was a battle that those of a specific race always had to fight, where we always had to explain ourselves. But she mentioned that she always had to explain herself. And I never thought about that because it's a similar battle, but because of my upbringing, because of my mind bugs, mind bugs, my ingrained habits of thought, my automatic unconscious associations. Because of that, if I saw her in public, I'd think she's a biological female because that's what she is. But I wouldn't know that she identifies as they, them, that she doesn't identify as a woman. All of us have these unconscious biases and these preconceived notions of how we're going to sound, how someone like me is going to sound, how someone who looks like you is going to sound, how someone who was born a biological female will look, someone who is, I guess, considered they, who considers themselves they. This is all new to me. So if I'm offending someone, that's on you because this is new to me. I'm learning. Yeah, it's hard. Like, how do you recognize that kind of person? It's difficult. But all I'm bringing up here is the fact that some people have to explain themselves, others don't. And we're all fighting a similar struggle in that regard. And I think it's a smart idea to be respectful of the battles that we're fighting, especially since they're of a similar caliber. In this day and age, it seems like one battle is easing up while another is getting a bit more difficult. It seems like race tensions are building up, and it seems like we're beginning to accept more of the gender fluid culture. I think that's the right term. I hope so. But that's all I had for this video. It was just fresh. It was something I had just learned where they're fighting a similar battle. It's not simply that, they're not doing it entirely on purpose. Some of them are doing it for attention. A lot of them are doing it for attention. I'm in these groups on Facebook where it's leftist groups. I'm in leftist groups. I'm in conservative groups. I'm in libertarian groups. I'm in authoritarian right groups. I'm in a lot of different groups. And actually, part of the reason why I started the RLoJ series is because I see the cognitive dissonance amongst each and every group. And of course, with me absorbing all these perspectives, you'd expect me to have extreme cognitive dissonance. And no, I just don't care enough. Like, I just act on whatever is in the best interest of myself, my community, and the people I care about. It's very, 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 very simple. And so now my team member is in my frame of reference here with regard to people I care about. And, I'm trying to learn this stuff. I'm trying to learn this gender identity. I'm trying to figure out what kind of battles she's fighting and how we can, I guess, join together. I'm trying to support. I'm trying to figure out how to support. And so if anyone watches this and they're trying to figure out what to do, I think diversity and inclusion training, at first I thought it was kind of redundant. I thought it was a joke. It's depending on who's presenting or depending on who's facilitating it, it can be not just inspiring, but it can be enlightening. And so I'd recommend it. So this is an RLoJ of myself, where I had a ridiculous lapse of judgment with race and gender identity. I didn't realize we were fighting the same battles. I didn't realize that I guess we had the same enemy. I think as groups, we have the same enemy. But individually, my only enemy is myself and the part of my brain that tells me to sabotage myself from, reaching my long-term goals. So my prefrontal cortex is my friend. My hindbrain sometimes is not my best friend. Now, that's it for this episode. Check out diversity and inclusion training wherever you can. Maybe you'll learn something, even though it sounds relatively redundant. And I'll see you on the next one.